some more thoughts ahead of the Heat and the Nuggets. The biggest question facing Miami, what do you do with the big fellas? Small sample size from the regular season. Bam Adebayo held Jokic, if you will, to 9 of 16 shooting. Jokic was 11 for 13 against all other Heat defenders. A lot has been made of Miami's zone defense for good reason. 221 possessions this postseason they ran zone. Rest of the NBA combined 175 possessions of zone. Denver did not face a ton of zone during the regular season because they eat it up. Just 183 possessions, tied for 23rd in the NBA. 11 of those zone possessions came against Miami, and Denver in those limited spots, really, really good. Michael Malone, always interesting. Some thoughts on that Miami zone.
I think they use zone more possessions than anybody. I thought their zone and their pressure back to zone was key in that last series against Boston. I thought, it gave Boston trouble. But as you mentioned, we've seen zone all year long. I think we have one of the better zone efficiencies on the offensive end. Right now in the playoffs, I think our offensive rating is, maybe the best it's ever been for a team in the finals. And we're prepared for it. And if we do see the zone, I think a lot of teams, when they see a zone, will panic. And instead of just playing the game and getting the ball into the middle of the zone, using dribble penetration to collapse the zone. And the other thing we talk about is, like, if we call a play and they're in zone, just run the play. And this is not college. Bam Adebayo cannot stand in the middle of the paint. He's got to cleanse himself at some point. So, and the last thing I'll say to that, is the best zone offense is your defense. If you get stops and rebounds, that makes it really hard for a team to fall back into a 2-3 zone and try to take you out of your rhythm.
As is often the case, Michael Malone talks. I find myself nodding. He's a thoughtful guy, and he's giving you a little information. This is a thoughtful guy as well. Tim Legler with us, will be throughout the finals, and let's talk finals. You feel like this comes down to how the Heat guard Denver. What has most impressed you about the way Miami, as Malone was just talking about, has played defense in the postseason?
Yeah, so it's both man-to-man and zone. We make so much about the zone. But, you hear teams, Scott, when they say they play zone with man-to-man principles?
Sure.
Miami plays man-to-man defense with zone principles.
Meaning?
Meaning they do not allow penetration, and they're all about the closeout. They're not going to leave anybody hung out to dry on dribble penetration. So let's get into it right here, because this is fascinating to me to watch this team defend right now. The first thing they're so good at, and this is going to be a man-to-man set, is they're so good at making sure they get 5 guys ahead of the basketball. You just don't see lack of effort on the Miami Heat. Everybody is back to force teams to play against their half-court defense, because Tatum had a little bit of giddy up here. There's only 3 seconds off the clock when he crosses half-court. You already have 5 Heat defenders back. Second thing that they do that a lot of teams don't do, everybody loves to switch, we know that, but most teams will just go ahead and they'll just make these automatic switches on any ball screen, and it's disadvantageous to do that. Obviously, Tatum would like to operate against Zeller. Well, the Miami Heat don't do it. They do a hard hedge, and they ask this player to chase an elite offensive player. In this case, it's Jimmy Butler. So you're just going to hold him up until Butler can get back there. Most teams don't make that extra effort. The Miami Heat do. So once he gets back, this is what I'm talking about. They're in man-to-man with zone principles. And here's what I mean. You don't ever give up strong side corner, so you're going to get a stunt knowing you're not leaving, but you're going to stunt enough that Jason Tatum sees traffic. This guy knows you're never leaving strong side corner. Zeller is going to stay right in front of the driving lane while Jimmy Butler continues to pursue from the top side. Look at the weak side. You got to duck in. That weak side corner defender is going to stunt here to take away this direct pass to the middle, knowing he has shooter. The whole time he's leaning in this direction, but you just want to give a look so that there's traffic right there at the top. Tatum ends up with nothing. Watch the closeout by Strus. On the catch, Strus is there. Shoulder square to the sideline. He's trying to force a baseline. I'm sure Eric Spoelstra would wish that it would stay there. Doesn't do it. It does escape back to the middle, but watch how the possession continues. 5 guys watching the basketball, nothing on penetration. Kick out, close out by Vincent. One more time. Marcus Smart wants to back you down. Look at the weak side. All eyes are up. You know you're going to have a closeout here. Jimmy Butler is hedging on this, knowing he's going to get out to this corner shooter, but he's providing traffic from the top. You got a guy in the lap, knowing he's going to get out here. One more kick out. Take a look at the effort by Jimmy Butler. Goes for the head fake, but then this is how they finish every possession, Scott. Every possession, hand on hand. Elite level closeout. Jimmy Butler gets a stop. Now, let's talk about the zone. People ask all the time, are they in a 2-3 or 3-2? They're in neither. The Miami Heat play a 2-2-1. It is very unique the way that they play this because they're asking their wings to do something very specific. Very often you'll see two guys on the basketball when they play zone. Where do you want to get the ball? Against a zone? In the middle of the floor. But here is what Miami does not do that most teams do when they play zone. Most teams will get a wing pinch in on this pass, one way or the other. And now you're basically saying there's no way I'm going to get out to these shooters because certainly Zeller's not going to get there. The Heat ask the backline guy to come up and take this middle pass, knowing that the two wings are going to have whichever way the ball comes. So Jimmy Butler's got two. He's going to go first pass whichever direction it comes. Obviously, Duncan Robinson has the corner shooter. So when this comes out, watch Jimmy Butler's reaction. Gets there, and again, that's just elite level. I mean, he was 10 feet away when this started. He gets a piece of this, forced the miss, incredible closeout, and the Miami Heat secure the basketball. So everything they do is so connected, Scott, defensively. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
And the Heat clearly watch every little thing. I thought the sound after they won the series from Spo was really interesting, that in Game 6, even though they lost, he felt like analytically all the things, closeouts, rotations, all the things they're paying attention to, they were great at, and they were great.
Yeah.
There's a problem, though, in the next series, right? The big fella?
Yeah, could present some issues.
Okay, with that in mind, Tim will join us a little bit later to show you how Jokic will challenge all that Miami does so well. That's a little bit later. Secured the big bag, a 6-year, $78.5 million contract to coach the Detroit Pistons. Sources told Adrian Wojnarowski it's the largest coaching deal in NBA history. Williams fired by the Suns early in May after 4 seasons following Phoenix's elimination at the hands of the Western Conference champion Denver Nuggets. Williams is going to make an average of $13.1 million on his new deal. Just one player on the Pistons roster as of right now has a higher cap figure for that next season. That's Bojan Bogdanovic at $20 million. So they have their man. 4 of the 6 openings have been filled. Raptors and Suns are the only teams currently looking for a head coach for next year. Well, somebody's reputation is about to get a massive boost. If Jimmy Butler leads Miami from the play-in through both 1 seeds in the East and the West to win a ring, that's legendary stuff. If Nikola Jokic gets a chip, it makes all those who tried to dismiss his MVPs as a byproduct of new math as they mocked his playoff shortcomings look kind of short-sighted and kind of silly. There are many lenses that you can view the Heat-Nuggets series through. Those are just 2 of them. You wonder, is Miami worn out after a 7-game battle with Boston? And you have Denver, been sitting around waiting, more than a week's worth. What's the impact of the inactivity? Advantage, disadvantage, neither. Some thoughts.
We're gonna see tomorrow. But yes, we were waiting. We were. But I think we took a good professional approach to those 8 days, 9 days, 10 days, whatever it was. Just because it's actually a long break, and I think we did a good job. We stay in the shape, getting ready, staying sharp, but still get enough rest.
We didn't know who we were going to play. We prepared for both, and once we finally knew, it kind of brought us all to ease to be able to prepare, mentally just for the matchups and game plan and all that. So it was a little relieving to see a couple of days ago the result.
Denver's got the best home record in the NBA because they're really good. The altitude helps as well. They've got 52-80 on the floor for a reason. It's to remind opponents, if it's hard to catch your wind, it's because you're at mile high. Lakers look pretty gassed there at times. Miami Heat head coach Eric Spoelstra not trying to hear it.
We're not even getting into any of that stuff. Our guys are in great shape. They're ready to compete. If Denver wants to tip this thing off at the top of Everest, we'll do that. This thing is going to be decided between the 4 lines. They also got to come back to Miami if we want to make it about that. We'll turn off the air conditioning. They got to play in 90-degree humidity, sap the S-H-I-T out of their legs. This thing is going to be decided between those 4 lines, and we'll decide it then.
You talked about how you spent a lot of time here in Denver. Have you felt the altitude before? How does it impact you, and do you do anything to adapt?
Nah, I just be drinking some water, listen to some music. I think that's the formula. You just gotta listen to music, drink water, drink wine, play spades, and dominoes.
I'll play spades against you. Another book. Are you allowed to spell out curse words now? Apparently you are. We'll see if that formula works for Butler and the Heat as they look to beat Denver in a place they haven't lost since March. Nuggets have won their 8 home games by an average of a dozen. The defense, which has been markedly better at home, allowing 10 fewer points per game compared. Finals get going tomorrow. Also on the way, Noah Syndergaard struggling. What are you willing to do to turn it around? I don't know, how many kids have I got?